William Shakespeare, the Bard of Avon, has left an indelible mark on the world of literature, theater, and popular culture. While his plays and sonnets continue to be studied, performed, and adapted, his influence extends far beyond these obvious homages. In fact, many writers have hidden subtle allusions to Shakespeare in their works. Like Easter eggs, these references are waiting to be discovered by keen-eyed readers. These hidden nods are sometimes overt, but often they are cleverly disguised, blending seamlessly into the narrative or dialogue. Once you spot them, however, their significance becomes clear, adding a layer of depth to the story. In this article, we will explore some of the most interesting examples of Shakespearean Easter eggs in popular literature, references to the Bard's works that you may have never noticed. James Joyce's masterpiece is known for its complexity and stream-of-consciousness style, but it is also a treasure trove of literary allusions, including several to Shakespeare. One of the most significant Easter eggs lies in the character Stephen Daedalus's musings about. Stephen presents a theory about the identity of Hamlet's father and the nature of Shakespeare's own life, implying that the play is a coded autobiography of the Bard himself. Joyce's allusion is not only intellectual but deeply personal, with Stephen as a stand-in for Joyce's own intellectual struggles. In doing so, Joyce places Shakespeare at the heart of his own exploration of language, identity, and artistry. The dialogue about Hamlet goes on for several pages, offering both a critique and a homage, showing how Shakespeare's works permeate Joyce's text. The title of Aldous Huxley's is itself a Shakespearean Easter egg. It comes from a line in where Miranda, upon seeing new people for the first time, exclaims, "Oh, brave new world that has such people in't." Huxley repurposes this line to serve as a bitterly ironic comment on the dystopian future he envisions, where human emotions and individuality are suppressed in the name of societal stability. The reference to also underscores themes of control, manipulation, and isolation. Just as Prospero manipulates events on his island, so too do the controllers of Huxley's dystopia manipulate its inhabitants. This subtle Shakespearean allusion enriches the text, adding a layer of commentary on the nature of power and freedom. One of the most famous lines in J.D. Salinger's, the book's title in fact, is a reference to Shakespeare, albeit indirectly. Holden Caulfield, the novel's protagonist, misinterprets a line from Robert Burns' poem Comin' Through the Rye, believing it to be about catching children before they fall off a cliff. However, his role as a metaphorical catcher in the rye can also be seen as a nod to. Like Hamlet, Holden is a young man overwhelmed by existential questions and disillusioned with the adult world. His preoccupation with protecting innocence mirrors Hamlet's own deep concern with corruption and moral decay. While the Burns reference is more overt, the parallel between Holden and Hamlet adds an additional Shakespearean layer to Salinger's novel. T.S. Eliot's is known for its density and its multitude of literary allusions, and it includes numerous references to Shakespeare's plays. One of the most striking Easter eggs in the poem comes from, in the section The Burial of the Dead, Eliot quotes Ferdinand's lines. "Those are pearls that were his eyes." This reference to the transformation of the drowned body of Ferdinand's father and adds a haunting quality to Eliot's meditation on death and decay. Eliot also references in the line, "Good night, ladies, good night," echoing Ophelia's tragic farewell before her descent into madness and death. These Shakespearean allusions contribute to the poem's overall sense of fragmentation, loss, and the search for meaning in a desolate world. Jane Smiley's is a modern retelling of Set on a Farm in Iowa. While the basic plot of the novel closely follows the trajectory of Shakespeare's play, the division of a father's land among his daughters and the ensuing family tragedy, Smiley also embeds more subtle references to throughout her narrative. One of the most intriguing Easter eggs in the novel is the way Smiley uses weather, particularly storms, to reflect the emotional turmoil of her characters. This mirrors the iconic Storm Inn, where the weather becomes a metaphor for the chaos and madness that envelop the king and his family. By weaving these Shakespearean elements into the fabric of her novel, Smiley creates a rich intertextual experience that deepens the tragedy of her modern adaptation. In John Updike reimagines the backstory of Shakespeare's, focusing on the relationship between Gertrude and Claudius before the events of the play. Updike fills in the gaps in Shakespeare's narrative, offering a sympathetic portrayal of characters who are often vilified in traditional readings of the play. While the novel is an obvious homage too, Updike also includes more subtle Easter eggs for fans of Shakespeare. For instance, he references specific lines and motifs from the play, such as the famous question of whether or not Claudius's guilt can be determined by watching his reaction to a play within a play. Updike's novel engages with on multiple levels, inviting readers to reconsider the characters and themes of the original text. Michael Cunningham's draws on a variety of literary influences, but one of the most prominent Easter eggs comes from Shakespeare's. In a pivotal scene, one of the novel's characters, Richard, quotes Lady Macbeth's famous line, "Out, out, brief candle." This line is spoken as Lady Macbeth contemplates the fragility of life in the face of death and guilt. Cunningham uses this Shakespearean reference to highlight Richard's own struggles with life, mortality, and the weight of his decisions. The allusion adds an extra dimension to Cunningham's exploration of existential despair, linking Richard's modern crisis to the timeless themes of Shakespeare's tragedy. 8. Harry Potter by J.K. Rowling. The Harry Potter series is filled with literary allusions, and one of the more subtle Easter eggs comes in the form of the character Severus Snape. Many scholars and fans have noted parallels between Snape and Shakespeare's villain, Iago. Both characters are manipulative, secretive, and driven by a deep-seated sense of resentment. Snape's actions throughout the series are often ambiguous, much like Iago's manipulation of Othello. Additionally, the Hogwarts motto, Draco Dormiens Nunquam Titilandus, never tickle a sleeping dragon, can be seen as an indirect nod to the bard's frequent use of metaphorical dragons in his works, such as in. While Rowling does not directly quote Shakespeare, the parallels between her characters and those of Shakespearean tragedies suggest a deep engagement with the bard's themes of betrayal, loyalty, and moral ambiguity. 9. Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. David Foster Wallace's borrows its title from Shakespeare's, specifically from the line where Hamlet refers to the court, jester Yorick. "Alas, poor Yorick, I knew him, Horatio, a fellow of infinite jest." The novel's dense narrative is filled with allusions to literature, philosophy, and pop culture, and the Shakespearean reference serves as both a thematic and symbolic anchor. The reference to underscores the novel's exploration of death, madness, and existential despair, themes central to both works. Wallace's use of the title suggests a continuity between Shakespeare's meditation on life and death and his own sprawling exploration of addiction, entertainment, and the human condition. 10. The Dark Tower by Stephen King. Stephen King's series is a multi-layered work of fiction that draws on a wide range of influences, including Shakespeare. In the final book of the series, King makes a direct reference to, with the line, "By the pricking of my thumb, something wicked this way comes." This line is spoken by the witches in, foretelling the arrival of Macbeth himself. King's use of this line serves as an ominous foreshadowing of the events to come in his own narrative. The Shakespearean allusion adds a layer of foreboding, and ties King's work to the long tradition of tragic heroes whose quests lead them to inevitable doom. Conclusion. Shakespeare's influence on literature is vast and far-reaching, and his works continue to inspire writers across genres and eras. These hidden Shakespearean Easter eggs add a rich layer of meaning to the settings,